George Edelman, MovieWeb. Really great to talk to you. It's an honor. You are one of the actors who does something. I don't know how you do it. You are always yourself, but you also just disappear into these roles. And I can only think of a few ever that I've watched that do that. And I kept thinking about it with Pete Seeger, like, how is he Pete Seeger, but he's also still clearly so much himself? Is there any how?
I don't think you can ever. I don't think you can ever get rid of yourself.
People try though, right?
Yeah, I mean you can't. But even I could cite my. There's those things we've all seen that are great transformative things, but there's always an essence of. There's going to be an essence of Dustin Hoffman, and everyone at Dustin Hoffman
Sure.
there's going to be an essence of. I think you'll never get away from it completely, but I think hopefully you find something that unlocks the essence of a character that you're trying to bring to life, and enough that people start forming a relationship with that character that's divorced from you. I can't explain it.
And all that happens in your process? What you did, that's part of your process, with Pete Seeger? What was thing that...
Well, for me, his voice was he had a very distinctive way of speaking. And you could say, well, that's mimicry, which it is on a certain level. But the interesting thing, the reason I'll say, and look, Ariane Phillips gets you this great clothes, and you find the musician, and you do. That's all great. It helps. But I think in his case, there was something about the way he spoke reflected very much who he was. He was gentle, and he had a formality to him. He wasn't a hippie. He wasn't of that generation. He was from another time, and there was a thing to me that his voice made him seem to me kind of like the Gandalf of that set, you know what I mean? Sure. He has a formality, a druid-like quality, and so the voice was really important to me. His elocution, and the way he spoke, maybe it was part of the key.
Yeah, well, as you say it brings it back, and I think the voice was a big part of what worked. The other thing I want to ask is, this is a movie about an artist transforming, and in a way, kind of fighting this thing he'd become. And this call to activism that had been thrust upon him. And Seeger represents a certain side of that. And I'm curious for you, Edward Norton, the artist, but also the activist, in an important way, in an important time. How do you perceive that and the complicated issues at the heart of this movie? Because it's especially right now, and it's fascinating. You guys did a job of laying it all out without telling us what to think. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious.
I appreciate that last comment, part of what you said too, because I think I've never been as compelled by films that have a moral per se. I mean, I think about Do the Right Thing, and when I was 19 years old and saw that movie, and why did it resonate so much at the time? Well, I mean, part of it was it dealt with all the juicy, messy reality of American life, but at the end it just said, here's what Martin Luther King said, and here's what Malcolm X said. And they were almost diametrically opposed to each other, and it just said, end. That's it. What do you make of it? Mm. And I remember being so almost shocked, almost intellectually shocked. I was like, oh my God, that's what he's gonna leave you with on this? And I really admire that impulse. And I think Jim Mangold was very, very disinterested in judgment in much the same way. And I think it's a different set of themes, but to me, I think Jim in his film, I feel like he's forcing you to confront to see different forms of integrity taking place at the same time, and that are not opposed to each other, but that can't always necessarily stay in the same lane.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I walk away from it going, it may have reached a kind of attention, but you can admire Dylan for one kind of integrity, and you can admire Pete Seeger for another kind of integrity, and you don't have to come necessarily to a judgment that one is superior to another.
Well, I appreciate it. I have to wrap up. You've done it so many times before with American History X, Fight Club. Those movies, just like Do the Right Thing, they send those messages. So thank you.